Oh, I guess I'm backlit. Can you guys even see me? Hold on. How do I do this? Is that better? So I want to tell you all a story, but I want to use it as a thinking moment, teaching moment, etc. So because you guys are messy, people have consistently said to me that this influencer Jessie Woo is, talking about me and, then trying to kind of like discredit the Surrounded by saying that it was a waste of my time, by saying that I really wasn't debating anybody that was smart. So, and she did acknowledge, Amanda is intellectual, but this is really not of value to her. So whether you care about this or not, I want to use this to talk about something bigger. Because I think it's really useful to use like actual life experiences to discuss bigger conversations. And the bigger conversation I want to discuss is asking for help. Okay, I want to discuss asking for help. And I want to discuss how we identify the difference between being used and being useful. And that is a thing that I think a lot of us are unable to see the difference of, largely because we live in a world that is so exploitative. It's so exploitative that oftentimes we simply cannot tell the difference between when we're being used and when we're being useful. And so much so that if we are, I think so much so that we lean toward the negativity, right? We lean toward the being used aspect of things. So, this contentiousness from Jessie Woo began because she, a few months ago, felt it valid to tell a story about an interaction we had that rubbed her the wrong way. I will tell my side of the story for the greater conversation. So, in 2022, I was in a really tough spot with Live Nation because I had a really shitty tour agent at Live Nation who had not made any efforts to market my tour and was really trying to suggest that my tour get canceled. Now, the thing about my tour being canceled would have meant that I would have literally just had no income. Like, as a stand-up, touring is your way of life. Touring is how you make your money. So I had signed on to do this tour that had dates with Live Nation as well as other companies. And the other company dates were all selling because they were marketing the shows. However, the dates with Live Nation were not selling because they were not marketing the shows. And I also did a lot of research in the markets, talking to individuals in the markets who are influencers who would be reached out to for marketing, talking to radio stations in the markets. And I learned that they were absolutely not contacted. They were not being utilized to market my shows. However, when you sign on with these different companies, you do a marketing deal, and a marketing budget is set aside to be utilized for your shows. If they are not using that marketing budget, then that just goes back into the company. So they're being dishonest with you if they are not using the marketing budget that has been, what's the word I'm looking for? That has been carved out. Okay? Greetings in London town. So when I really got to investigating and saw this happening, I brought it to the attention of my agent at UTA, who brought it to the attention of the person allocated. Ooh, thank you, Brandy. I haven't eaten my breakfast yet. Who brought it to the attention of the person at Live Nation, and they felt attacked, because that's what people do these days. They don't just correct things. They just say, oh, I feel attacked. And then because I was direct, it was, oh, Amanda has a problem. Amanda's stank, Amanda's difficult. And this is often why I get labeled difficult, because I will just come straight to the head with it. I'm not going to pussyfoot around. I'm not going to do a whole dance to protect your ego and to protect your feeling and to protect your feelings of dominion, of domination. And that is what people expect from you, you know, and that's what playing the game is. Don't get me wrong. I understand that that's what playing the game is. A lot of times when people say, you know, you get more bees with honey than you do with, I guess, whatever else, what they're really saying is, you know, hey Dre, what they're really saying is, you know, you can get a lot further if you're willing to do the dance of niceties with people who are doing you dirty. That's a lot of times what is actually happening. So, same creating.jazz, same vinegar. Thank you, Auntie Donna Brown. Y'all are really helping me out this morning. So, you know, this ended up derailing into a scenario where the person at Live Nation decided that they were just going to cancel my whole tour. So instead of trying to right the wrong and, like, you know, course correct, the person who was a black man and who also used to be my friend felt very some type of way, and thus they set me up to fail. So they went forth trying to cancel my tour. The thing about canceling my tour is that I then end up being forced to sue, because my agency, UTA, was like, well, we're not going to be able to fight them. Which is not be able, they're just not willing to. We're not going to fight them. And I'm like, so what's the point of signing all of these contracts that state that if a show gets canceled, they have to pay you a guarantee? And is that right, Wiggy Life? Interesting. So I guess we're talking about the same Chris. And so I felt very, like, left out of options. And I ended up texting 4 people, one of which was Kevin Hart, and said, you know, I need your help with the Live Nation situation. Kevin hit me up, he called me, and he very expeditiously stepped in and helped make it right. So I will always be appreciative to Kev for this, like forever and ever. So of the solution, it was that there's shows that we're going to keep, and those shows are not the whole. So some shows still did end up getting canceled, but other shows were remaining. And so now I got to make sure that all of those shows that are remaining sell out, because now I've lost like 4 shows on this tour. So one of those shows was in Atlanta. And so then I had to go to Atlanta for something else. And so while I was there, I said, well, hey, Eric, good morning. I said, well, let me figure out how I can tap in to the people in Atlanta who have, you know, connection, like a network and a following, to try to promote this show. Now, remember, I don't have any money. So this is, okay, I got to tap into the folks that I already have a rapport with. So I reached out to Pretty V, because I know that even though she I think she was living in Atlanta at that time, but I knew that she has a constituency of people in Atlanta. I reached out to Pretty V. I reached out to Greg Street. I reached out to DJ Drama. And I reached out to another brother that someone had referred me to. And then I also reached out to Jesse Wu. And I basically sent everybody the same text, which was essentially like, hey, can we meet up? Because I really want to, because I forgot whatever it was, the text I sent, I guess, was able to be interpreted differently because Jesse Wu interpreted the text differently than everybody else. Everybody else interpreted the text as me asking to link up to do some type of promotion. However, she interpreted it as us just linking up to hang. And so she had been out of town, and when she came back in town, she hit me, and I was like, oh, great, so tell me where I can meet you to do the video. And she was like, wait, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, because I need to do the video to promote the tour, to promote the show. And she was like, oh, I thought you wanted to have dinner. And I was like, no, that's actually not what I'm asking for. And I don't even have time to have dinner because I'm struggling to try to save this show. And so I could tell that there was a apprehension. And so I gave her an out and basically was like, oh, but if you don't have time, like, I get it. And she was like, oh yeah, like I'm really tired. So I'm not going to have time. So she didn't align to do the promotion. Thankfully, though, DJ Greg Street had me come on the radio. DJ Drama had me come on the radio. He also connected me with 2 other DJs in Atlanta that had me come on the radio to promote the show. The other brother who I didn't even know, but who I had reached out to, he was like, you know what? Normally I charge people for this, but I really support your work, so I'm gonna show you love. So he promoted the show. Pretty V was not in Atlanta at the time, but I think like she had like done a tweet or something. So I was really appreciative to everybody else who helped me because let me tell y'all, it was not a game to try to not only make sure that I was able to sell out these shows to support myself, but also it was necessary because I wanted to prove this fucking Live Nation wrong. You know, they were saying that I was washed up. They literally said I was washed up, and that's why I'm not selling any tickets. And that hurt my feelings. Because it wasn't true. At the same time, I had sold out. I had sold like 2,500 seats in Brooklyn. So anywho, that was the story that Jessie Wu told a couple months ago on these internets, where she said that I had essentially reached out to her to use her for promotion. Yes, this was for Smart, Funny, and Black. And this was the show that had The Brat and Madison. And so, you know, to me, that was not a situation of using somebody. That was an opportunity for someone to possibly be useful, particularly to somebody who is constantly supporting and promoting and really just trying to create spaces for like heart and mind expansion. And it was really disconcerting to hear her position me like that on her Instagram, on her internets, because like I just don't do that. I don't use people. But I wanted to use this as a framework to talk about asking for help. Because so often we are, particularly Black women, we're low-key like chided for not asking for help, right? We're low-key like chided for, like, why are you always trying to do everything by yourself? And sometimes it's because you just don't want to have to deal with this. You don't want to have to deal with the dance of trying to convince somebody to simply just look out, right? And I think that there was a very clear just miscommunication that took place here that could have been packaged as that, right? Like, oh, I thought you wanted to, oh, hold on, I need to block somebody. Hold on. I thought you wanted to do this, but this is this. Oh, okay, got it. So misunderstandings happen all the time, especially, you know, when people are moving too fast. And I think it was also an opportunity for her to get clarity from me instead of presenting it on the internet in this way. But I want to say to you all that asking for help is necessary. You cannot do all of it by yourself. You cannot do all of it by yourself. And what it requires too, as somebody who also has to help, because if you're in community, then you're going to be asked to help, is understanding that community is inconvenient. And you also have to be able to determine when you're being used or when you're being useful. So for instance, like there is a nonprofit on this internet that I had become really cool with the creator of. I'm not even going to throw her under the bus this morning because I'm just feeling, I don't know, I will preserve it. But there is a nonprofit on this internet that I had become very cool with, and the owner of the nonprofit and I became very cool with. And because of the work that they do, I made myself available when they would ask me to be available, right? Because honestly, I feel like if I see people doing the work that I believe is necessary for a better world to live in, then if I have the capacity, then it's part of my reality it makes sense for me to support them. So they asked me to host, they asked me to do an interview for their newspaper that they were coming out with. I did it. They asked me to do a panel at the Brooklyn Museum. I did it. They flew me to New York for like 12 hours. And I found the time and I did it. The owner put out a book. She didn't even ask me to promote the book, but I did it, even though I was on an internet freeze. They asked me to, they had a gala, and then at the gala, I said, you know, I would propose, they asked people to like commit to donating a certain amount every month. I did it. And, you know, there were like friendship exchanges that were generous, but on the work side of things, whenever I turned around and asked for support, it was not given. It was either dodged or it was denied. You know, it's like, oh, can you promote my one-woman show? Oh, yeah. But then you cancel every time we're supposed to do a video. Oh, you know, can you post it? Oh, yeah. And then you don't post it. And so this is when you start to see the difference and you say, oh, I was actually being used, even though I thought I was being useful. A lot of us are people pleasers. A lot of us are codependents, or recovering codependents, I should say. We're recovering codependents. And so we may not want to say no. And we also always want to like blame ourselves. But the truth is, if you come in kindness, you come in kindness. It doesn't mean that when they don't come in kindness, you still owe them your time. It's not an example of transactional. It's an example of somebody showing their ass, okay? And this is when we are able to identify, am I being useful or am I just being used? And that to me has been incredibly important in my growth, in my in my choosing who is in community with me, right? And in my understanding the different members of my community. And so when I see just the continued thread by Jessie Wu to try to discredit me, even though it all comes back to and stems from a misunderstanding, it says to me, you know, that's unfortunate, because I would have been very happy to be in community with this person, and for some reason they felt used, though I was reaching out for help in a situation that I was not able to solve on my own. And I think that's another way to identify when there's a difference between being used and being useful. Like sometimes it's just very apparent that like this is not a situation that can be solved by someone. However, when people are able to solve it by themselves, but they keep pressing you, that is you being used. Like I have dated people like that, right? I have had people in my family like that. When they just want to use you, either because they want to feel domination over you, or they want to feel, they want attention maybe. But ultimately, it's like, nah, you can do that, so you should do that. And I see parents teaching their children this, and I think it's really dope. Of course I called them out on it. And when I called the head of the nonprofit out on it, she, of course, deflected, like all narcissists do. Deflected. And even if you deflect in the moment and you come to your senses and come back around, okay, but she never came back around, because that's how she exists. And let me just tell y'all, the NGO nonprofit community is full of narcissists. Honey child. I would venture to say they're even worse than in Hollywood, because they're backed by this righteous effort. That makes it even more worse, because they're backed by like this righteous effort, so it almost like enables and supports their narcissism. And you're like, yes, it's saviorism, that's what it is, Coop. And so you're like, oh, like I had a brother tell me, are you willing to be a first lady? And I said, absolutely not. I have no desire to do that. And he said, well, I'm gonna run for president. And I was like, that's not right. And I said, why are you gonna run for president? And he said, because the country needs a leader, and why not me? And there's confidence, and then there's arrogance. And the difference is that confidence is based on proven facts that you have shown yourself. Arrogance is based on the lie you tell yourself. And he was dead serious. I was like, run. So, today's lesson is about being useful versus being used. And the truth is, don't nobody want to be used, but everybody want to be useful. Right? Everybody want to be useful. So, as an exercise, ask yourself, when you're asking someone for help, am I using? Or am I asking someone to be useful? When someone asks you for help, am I being used? Or is this an opportunity to be useful? Because as we continue to understand how to build community, we are breaking habits of indoctrination that this imperial empire has trained us to exist in. This self-aggrandizement, this individualism, it is incredibly helpful to fascists and to those who want to harm, because it keeps us from being connected to each other, and it keeps us from trusting each other, and it keeps us from being empathetic. It keeps us from caring. And the caring is the thing that keeps us positively charged. Good morning, Dr. Muhammad, or good afternoon, I should say. It keeps us positively charged. You are made of atoms. I talk about this on my Patreon this morning. You are made of atoms that have a positive, a negative, and a neutral charge. So you can control which way your charge will go. And it can flip in an instant. We're on a magnetically poled planet. So those charges can be pulled in any direction. And you can, I believe, you can have the power over your charge. So hoping everyone has a beautiful day. I hope you commit yourself to community. I hope you learn something new today. I put a story in my stories as well as on my page about court watching, which they're doing a class on court watching and what that work is all about. So for those of you who are consistently saying, I want to be down, I want to be a part of the movement, but I want to be recruited for the resistance, but I just don't know what I can do, this is an opportunity for you to learn about another space in which you can be useful. Okay? So check that out, and remember to watch Views from Amandaland tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern on YouTube Amandaseales TV. Subscribe to YouTube Amandaseales TV, please. We are at 180,000. I would love to get to 200,000. Wow. So thank you all so much, and peace be unto you. May the force be with you.